Welcome to the Building Up Women in Property podcast. I'm your host, Rebecca Bangura, and I'm thrilled to have you here with me today. This podcast is for ambitious women who work in property and construction who want to learn how to have a career they love on their terms. Join me every week where I'll leave you excited and confident to take your next steps. Thanks for being here with me. Now let's get started. Welcome. I am excited to be here with you today. This is the first Building Up Women in Property podcast of 2025. And if you're a regular listener, you will know that I took a bit of a break at the end of 2024. And I did a bit of soul searching around whether I was going to continue the podcast. And after a bit of time, reflection, and most importantly, feedback from you, the listeners, I have decided to keep going with this podcast. So make sure you subscribe and you look forward to getting a new episode every week directly to whatever feed you get your podcasts from. And if you are new here, if this is the first episode you have stumbled on, then welcome. I'm so excited to have you here because this really is a podcast dedicated to women in the property and construction industry who want to see change happen, who want to have rewarding, fulfilling careers, but it doesn't need to be at the cost of our own personal lives and our relationships in order to thrive. So without further ado, let's get into today's topic because we're 2 weeks into the new year and I want to talk about New Year's resolutions and the real reason that most resolutions fail and how to beat the odds. Because by February, 80% of people will have failed at their resolutions set only 30 days ago. I know I can relate to this. Most people can. And we need to acknowledge that this isn't because we're lazy. It isn't because we lack willpower. It actually goes much deeper than that. And when we set these goals, we have these hopes that they will change our careers, they will change our lives. But over the last almost 10 years, I've gone deep into understanding what drives change, both personally for myself, but also for my clients. I want to share with you that we need to rethink our relationship with goals and goal setting because the real gold isn't in the goal itself. It's not about achieving the end outcome so much as it is about the person you become in pursuit of that goal. That journey is the critical piece. When we set New Year's resolutions, we are so focused on the outcome and we haven't done enough to consider what it takes to get there. Today, I want to share my insights and experiences around how we make resolutions and goals that stick and how you can beat the odds to create the change you want in your career and life. And as with all these podcasts, I want you to listen for the 1 or 2 things that you can take action on today, right? Don't get bogged down in trying to do everything or all the details. Just try and get 1 or 2 things that will really move the needle for you. I promise if you do that, you will be miles ahead of the game compared to most people. It's also really important as we talk about goals to recognize that we are dealing with very complex brains. To start, it's important as we set a goal or a resolution that we know what we are trying to achieve. And I'm going to dive into the common pitfalls we make around setting goals and resolutions. I want you to grab a pen and paper. If you are out and about, maybe do a note in your phone and write down what your goals are. And I think about the accountability structure you have for these to be achieved. When we actually write this down and we create that accountability system for ourselves, we are 2% more likely to achieve the results we want than if we don't. And we want our results to be clear in our minds. We want them to be crystallized down on paper. So do yourself this favor and please make sure you write what it is that you want to achieve and why. Because the biggest pitfall I see is that we often pursue goals that don't necessarily align with our true values or desires, but they may be more societal expectations or things we think we should be achieving rather than what we really desire. And it's incredibly easy to get caught into this loop of things that I should want. I should want a promotion. And you may genuinely want a promotion, but knowing why you want that promotion is really critical. Coming at it from a perspective of, I want a promotion because I'm due for one, is very different to, I want a promotion because I'm capable of achieving so much more. I'm capable of having more impact. And so we need to dig that bit deeper to really be able to take ownership of the outcomes we are working towards. I want to give you an example from my own life. When I returned from maternity leave, I was in discussions with my manager and his manager about a new role. It was a more senior position. It was well within my capabilities, but it was a different role. During the conversations about this position, everyone kept telling me that the salary would be the same and that there was no room to move. I was really tempted to say, okay, I'll do it. There was a slight pay increase, but not anything significant. And frankly, what was being offered to me was not in line with the value of that position. And it would have been very easy for me, particularly at a time when you're coming back from maternity leave. For those of you that have been there, you'll appreciate that you're quite vulnerable. It can feel quite daunting coming back to work at that point. It would have been easy for me to take what was an offer and accept the opportunity. But I knew in my heart that was not the salary for that position. And to be perfectly honest, I wasn't that attached to the job. I would have loved it, but if I didn't get it, it wasn't going to be the end of the world for me. I had to do some soul searching and I think about why I wanted this promotion. Why did I want this new role? And why did I want and expect a higher salary? The truth, it was not about the money so much as acknowledging my worth and others acknowledging my worth. It was about stepping into my value, stepping into my experience and becoming someone confident to ask for what they deserved. And so I went back repeatedly and stood my ground in terms of my salary expectation. I didn't get all the way to where I wanted, but I got very close. It ended up being a really important learning experience for me that I had to be willing to let go of the outcome in order to push for what I knew was right and what I wanted, the acknowledgement of my value. Having been through that process, I came back from parental leave much more confident. And I think that really did set me up to execute incredibly well in that position because I'd had that strong confidence boost before going in. And our brains are hugely complex chemical reactors. And what happens with every little win that we have, every time we stand up for ourselves, every time we take a small action that's aligned with what we are trying to create or what we are trying to achieve, we get a dopamine spike, which reinforces that positive behavior in our minds. It actually is what builds resilience. And every little action on the way to achieving our goal is actually reprogramming our brains for success. So I want you to think about what it is you want and why it's important to you. Because the truth is, no matter what you are trying to achieve, whether it's promotion or pay rise at work or work-life balance, better relationships, better health, whatever it is, there will be setbacks on the way. There will be difficulties. If it was easy, you would have already achieved it. By having the goal means that it is stretching you. And with that growth, there is going to be bumps in the road. There is going to be failures. There is going to be setbacks. We need to just acknowledge that that is part of the journey. We need to build grit and resilience and take in spite of those setbacks. So wherever you are in terms of the goals you want, the life you want, the career you want, I want you to really think about these next 4 things. First of all, I want you to get brutally honest about what you want. Take a minute and really ask yourself, if I stripped away all expectations, if I let go of all the fear I have and I stopped with the comparison with other people, what do I really want? Now, I know that is a big question. And it is really hard to let go of all those layers that hold us back and keep us constrained to setting ourselves up for smart and respectable goals. But I want you to think bigger than that. I want you to think about the soul of who you are and the roles that you feel. What is it that you want? If you get stuck on this, here's a little hack. List 3 things that you don't want in your life to help create that contrast. When we create contrast, our reticular activating system, which is the filter in our brain, it actually start to filter out distractions and allow you to hone in on aligned opportunities for you. So if you're stuck, think about the negatives, and that will help make the positives, the things you do desire, much clearer. Now, the second thing I want you to do is focus on the process, not just the finishing line. Once you're clear on what you want, it's time to really shift yourself to focus on what that journey looks like. An example of that is if you want to run a marathon, then you need to just do the kilometers. You need to do the runs. So it might be saying, I'm going to do 2 runs a week or 3 runs a week or 60 kilometers a week or whatever it may be for you. If you want to get a new position, then the process is seeking out and applying for new positions. Think about what it will take to get the outcome you want. And then think about how you can develop that process or habit so that you habitualize it. And in doing so, you come back to this idea of small wins and those consistent releases of dopamine, which reinforce the habits and will keep your motivation high to keep building on your progress. So by thinking of your goal as the destination, every small step you take is proof that you're moving closer. It's proof for your brain that will build that grit and resilience to keep going. Number 3 is you need to become your own biggest advocate. People who are successful do not wait around for recognition. If you're hoping someone will see your value, it's time to put on your big girl pants and take ownership of the situation. In the early stages of your career, opportunities tend to present themselves more. As you become more senior, you have to hunt for things. You have to really put yourself out there and you demonstrate your capability and your competence to people in order to create bigger opportunities. Whether that's speaking up in meetings, asking for feedback, or seeking out a guide, coach, or community of like-minded women, it is on you. It is up to you to drive your own success. And this is really tied to this idea of self-efficacy, right? Which is the belief in our own abilities to influence events and outcomes, that we can control our own destinies, that we are in the driver's seat of our own lives. The research shows that when we have self-efficacy, when we have that belief, it is a significant predicator of success. And I tell you, I see this time and time again with my clients. This is one of the fundamental things we work on, self-efficacy, self-belief. Because if you don't have it, it becomes much harder to achieve big things. And again, every small step we take, things like speaking up in meetings or sharing our wins publicly, build a positive feedback loop of courage. It requires us to override our natural fear response in our brain. But when we do, and when we learn to control our responses and to override that fear response, that is when we become incredibly powerful and can drive incredible change. Okay, number 4 is about practicing radical self-forgiveness and compassion. Mistakes and setbacks will happen. They are part of the journey. Let's stop being surprised when they do, and instead of spiraling into guilt or self-criticism, you need to let go. You need to forgive yourself and reflect on what went wrong and what can you do differently moving forward. This is something I have struggled with for most of my life. I'm a very self-critical person, and when I see things I should have done differently or I don't perform where I want to be, easily fall into a downward spiral and beat myself up. But what I have learned, and let's be honest, I'm continuing to learn, is that the sooner I can let go, stop beating myself up, and instead take the learnings from situation and move forward, the more action I take, the easier it becomes, the more fun I have. For me, this really is about how we let our failures flow over us and not pull us down so we can keep moving forward and taking big action to create the results and the lives that we want. So I'm going to leave this with you. And as I said at the start, I want you to think about what is one thing from today's episode that could really move the needle for you. And I want you to go away and practice that, whether it's connecting with your why, writing down your goals, practicing radical self-compassion and forgiveness, standing up and advocating for yourself. I know you are capable of incredible things. There will be bumps along the way, but you have got this. And why not all of us make 2025 the year that we achieve the things we want to achieve and have those impactful, enjoyable, rewarding lives we want? I encourage you to think about not only achieving your goal, but who you will become in the process. I would love to hear from you. Drop me a line on LinkedIn, email, or visit the website and tell me what you're focusing on or what is your one takeaway from today's session. And if you have time, I would love if you could leave a review and a comment because it helps more women in our industry find the podcast. And together, we are going to create more women in leadership and change the culture of the property and construction industry. Okay, my friend, you have got this. Let's make 2025 our best year yet. Thank you for joining me on the Building Up Women in Property podcast. I'm Rebecca Bangura, and if you'd like to learn more about what I do, head over to LinkedIn and connect with me. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you next time.